Hello, you're back with me, I'm Ray. Ready for another story to begin our new book. I've got my reading hat on, I've got my reading companion, and we're going to read our new story. Our new story is called Jeremy James. Okay, it's one of his series of books. Now, this is on my Kindle. I haven't got my book with me at the moment. Okay, but it's called Elephants Don't Sit on Cars. Okay, and they're really, really funny books. Okay, and there's lots of books for them, but they're quite old books, so we'll see how we get on. So the first chapter is called The Elephant on Daddy's Car. "Mummy," said Jeremy James, "there's an elephant sitting on Daddy's car." "Yes, dear," said Mummy, eyes fixed and hands fixed on the dough, fixed on the table. "Mummy, why is the elephant sitting on Daddy's car?" "I expect it's tired, dear. It'll probably get up and go away soon." "Well, it hasn't," said Jeremy James 2 minutes later. "It hasn't got up. The car's gone down, but the elephant hasn't got up." "Mummy, do you think I ought to tell Daddy?" No, leave your father," said Mummy. "You know he hates being interrupted when he's working." "Daddy's watching a football match on television." "If Daddy says he's working, then he's working." "Well, there's an elephant sitting on his car," said Jeremy James. Mummy thumbed sultanas into the dough to make eyes and noses. "And the car doesn't look very happy about it," Jeremy James said. "Jeremy James," said Mummy, "elephants don't sit on cars." "Well, this one does." "Elephants don't sit on cars. And if Mummy says that elephants don't sit on cars, then elephants don't sit on cars." "But they don't. Finish. Now, play with your train set." Jeremy James sat on the carpet and played with his train set and thought about the elephant on Daddy's car, and then thought about how stubborn mummies can be when they want to be, and how, if he was a mummy and his son said there was an elephant on Daddy's car, he would say, "What a clever boy," and "Thank you for telling me," and "Here's some money for some ice cream," instead of just "Elephants don't sit on cars." "Goal!" said the television set sitting in the sitting room. "Goal!" said Daddy, hard at work. And the elephant was still sitting on Daddy's car. "Mummy," said Jeremy James, for the latest development could not be ignored. "Mummy, the elephant has just done a number 2 on Daddy's car." But Mummy's face merely twitched like a fly flicking an elephant's ear, and she said nothing. "Gosh, and what a number 2! Mummy, you should see the elephant's number 2. Mummy, why do elephants do such big number 2s? I can't do a number 2 like that. Mine isn't even 1,000th as big as that. What a number 2! "Jeremy James, if you go on talking like that, I shall send you straight to bed. Now, play with your train set and let's have no more elephant talk. And certainly no more about number 2s. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mummy." No number 2s. Anyone would think that number 2s were unhealthy. Only, look what happened when you didn't do a number 2. Then it was, "Jeremy James, have you done your number 2? You haven't done your number 2? Then sit there until you have." Now tell them an elephant's done his number 2 on Daddy's car, and suddenly it's all rude. Why can't grown-ups make up their mind? Jeremy James played with his train set. Jeremy James looked out the window, and the elephant was gone. "Mummy," said Jeremy James. "What is it now?" said Mummy, half in, half out of the oven. "The elephant's gone." That was a typical grown-up word, It was for grown-ups only, and it meant whatever they wanted it to mean. Jeremy James had tried to use once himself, and when Mum had said, "Have you done your number 2?" he'd replied, because that was how grown-ups got out of awkward questions, like, "Will you buy me something nice today?" or "Why can't I have a toy racing car like Timothy's?" Only, Jeremy James obviously didn't know how to use it, because Mummy had told him to speak properly, even though he'd said, perfectly well. Daddy came out of the sitting room, with his face as long as an elephant's nose. "They lost," said Daddy. "Right at the end, an own goal." And then Daddy leaned on the kitchen doorpost, as he always did when he'd been working, and sometimes when he was working, and watched Mummy working, presumably to make sure that she was doing it right. Jeremy James had tried leaning on the doorpost once, saying, as Daddy always ended up by saying, "Will it be long, dear?" But instead of getting Mummy's normal he'd had a "Now don't you start," and he'd been sent off to play with his train set, which he was sick of doing anyway. "Will it be long, dear?" said Daddy. Said Mummy. "Now don't you start," said Jeremy James quietly. An own goal, said Daddy, right at the end. Was the goal number 2? Asked Jeremy James. I don't know what's got into that child, said Mummy. And Daddy elbowed himself up off the doorpost and took one hand out of his pocket. Take your hands out of your pockets, Jeremy James. And he yawned and announced, maybe I'll go and clean the car. Mummy didn't say. There won't be time enough before tea, though Daddy waited quite a while for her to say it. So Daddy eventually left the kitchen, crossed the dining room and entered the hall, opened the front door and went out of the house. Jeremy James stood at the window and wondered what new words Daddy was going to use. Daddy didn't use any words. Daddy's mouth fell open, and then he came back in the house, opened the front door, entered the hall, crossed the dining room, and held himself up by the kitchen doorpost. The car, said Daddy, and his mouth opened and shut several times, as if he'd just been pulled out of the water. The car, he said again. What's the matter with it? Asked Mummy, spreading hand cream over the bread. It's been ruined. It's totally ruined. It looks as if it's been completely squashed. Completely and utterly squashed. Oh, John, said Mummy, who only called Daddy John when she was very upset or when she wanted some money. Oh, John, there isn't, sort of dung all over it, is there? Yes, said Daddy, there jolly well is. I've never seen anything like it either. Must have been a herd of cows dancing on the thing. It wasn't a herd of cows, said Jeremy James. It was an elephant. I saw it, and I told Mummy, but she wouldn't listen. An elephant, said Daddy. You saw an elephant on the car. Yes, said Jeremy James, and I saw it do its number 2 as well. Then why on earth didn't one of you tell me? Said Mummy, and Jeremy James went back to playing with his train set. And that's the first chapter of our new book. As I said, different type of book. I find these very, very funny. Join me again tomorrow for our next chapter, which is called Shopping.